What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 94. We have Virna Jandiroba going against Amanda Lemos. We are back in the Apex for a 12-fight card here, and let me address the elephant in the room. Well, there may be two elephants in the room. The first one is, yes, I shaved my beard off. It is gone, and we'll leave it at that. And the second elephant is, yes, I'm getting this out. Probably the latest I've gotten a prediction video out in years, and that is because behind this week. My mother-in-law typically watches the kid throughout the week. She went on vacation, so shame on her for going on vacation. I hope she enjoyed it, but she better not go on vacation ever again. She better not do that to me again. So yeah, that's why I'm behind. I didn't want to come on here and like half-ass a breakdown. I wanted to make sure I was able to tape every single fight, and so it's coming out on a Thursday. It is what it is. With that said, I will be getting out my UFC 304 breakdown nice and early, either on Sunday or Monday there. So yeah, I'm gonna go through these fights here. This is a card that I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to. I'm looking to maybe keep it light this week and then heavily attack UFC 304 next week. Have one bet thus far. It's a small bet, and looking to add maybe a couple other spots. But yeah, as always, going to be breaking down these fights. Before we get into, if you guys could like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It's always much appreciated. Was able to get a lot of my content out on Wednesday, and lastly, we have best bet Saturday, final thoughts Friday, and then the betting breakdown video will be out early Saturday morning. So all content should be back on schedule from here on out. And again, if my mother-in-law is listening to this, please, for the love of God, don't go on vacation again. It really set me back this week. But I say we get into the fights. All right, we have Thomas the Train Petersen going against Mohammed Usman. We got Petersen, 29 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 8-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Mohammed Usman, 35 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach, 10-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. I feel like I've never really been high on Mohammed Usman. I'm just not a big fan of the guy's game. Like, he's brutally low volume. He goes in there and does a bunch of nothing. I don't think he has the best cardio. His ground game has not been tested, and I think it's going to be tested here. I think Petersen couldn't have had a worse debut. I think a lot of people are low on Petersen after that trash debut against Jamal Pogues, but, you know, prior to that, I was semi-impressed with Petersen. He's a guy that's very physically strong. He can get takedowns. When on top, he does have good ground and pound. Was able to get a submission in the second round in his Contender Series fight. It's a sloppy, greasy heavyweight fight to kick off the card, but I'm leaning the Petersen side here just because on the feet, although I think Usman's the better striker per se, he does nothing, whereas Petersen at the very least I think is going to be a little bit more active. And on top of that, I feel like Petersen has big favorite upside if he is able to get this fight down to the mat and get on top. Like I said, we haven't seen Usman's ground game tested at all, so give me the guy at plus money who I think has more ways to win. It's probably going to be ugly, it's probably going to be greasy, but give me Thomas Petersen to win this fight by decision. Moving on, we got Lucie Pudilova going against Luana Carolina, and it's hard. It's hard, you know, coming on here and creating content, you know, week after week. This is going to be my 6th or 7th year, and you know, having to research, you know, fights like this, and you know, people get really mad if I don't break down, you know, fights like this with a smile on my face. But you know, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, to be excited about something like this. You know, this, you know, breaking down fights like this really takes a toll on you. You know, mentally, I don't think I'm all that well, you know, nowadays, and I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, breaking down fights like this. Lucie Pudilova, Luana Carolina. Yeah, I mean, it's a minus 110 pick'em each way. The fight's gonna play out like a minus 110 pick'em. Carolina was actually plus money at the beginning of the week. If I have to pick somebody, I mean, that's what I'm on here doing, right? I'm on here making picks. I'm gonna take Carolina to win this fight, but I'll leave it at that. You know, I mean, I'm not betting on this fight. Probably not watching this fight. And yeah, I'm sure people are gonna get mad. You know, I mean, people, it's every week with some of these guys. Like, how can you not be excited about, you know, this fight? Well, how the hell am I supposed to be excited about Lucie Pudilova, Luana Carolina? how the hell am I supposed to be excited about this fight? I'm excited about, other fights on this card, but this is not the fight I'm excited about, and that's okay. I'm allowed to have an opinion. Carolina by decision. Moving on. We have Loik Radzhabov going against Trey Ogden. We got Loik Radzhabov, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 69-inch reach, 18-5-1, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Trey Ogden, 34 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. He's 17-6 and 2-2 in 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. This fight's going to be awful because it's a Trey Ogden fight. With that said, though, Ogden's one of those guys that I think is just very, very smart. This guy has just incredible fight IQ, which is great. Like, that's awesome. Trey Ogden's a guy that's going to go out there, he's going to have a game plan, and he's going to go out there and implement that game plan across 15 minutes. So, yeah, maybe it's not the most exciting fight. I haven't seen an exciting Trey Ogden fight yet, and I don't think we're going to see it here. He's going to slow down the fight. He's going to be very defensive, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, go out there and, get a win, Trey Ogden. So I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. Another very close fight. I feel like half of these fights on this card are pick'em type fights. This is one of them. But I'm kind of leaning Trey Ogden here. I think Ogden's kind of starting to grow on me a little bit. I like the fight IQ. This guy's a coach in his own right. He can mix in takedowns. He has good control, good BJJ black belt. The striking's coming along. So yeah, a lot of reasons to like, Trey Ogden. He's going against Loik Radzhabov, who has the power advantage, but Radzhabov's a little bit low volume in his own right. Radzhabov's cardio is not the best. So yeah, it should be a very close fight. I think the line's about right in terms of, it being a pick and can go either way. But give me Trey Ogden to win this fight by decision. Again, probably a boring, terrible fight, but that's just Trey Ogden's style, just boring, terrible fights. Moving on, we got Miranda Maverick going against Dione Barbosa. We got Miranda Maverick, 27 years old, 5'3" with a 65.5-inch reach, 13-5 and 4-1. In her last 5 fights, Dione Barbosa, 32 years old, 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach, 7-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Maverick, believe it or not, is the biggest favorite on the entire card, and I do like Maverick to win this fight. So Maverick was supposed to fight Tracy Cortez this week. Cortez obviously filled in and fought Rose Namajunas last week in UFC Denver. And I heard an interview with Maverick today, and she said that she even was about to step in and fight Rose Namajunas if Tracy Cortez did not. So we could have saw Maverick, fighting Rose Namajunas last week, but Cortez went in and fought her there. So yeah, now they're bringing in Dione Barbosa on about like a week and a half, 2 weeks notice. And yeah, Barbosa, I think she's decent. She's a judo black belt, a BJJ black belt. She's very physically strong. The problem with Barbosa is she's very low volume on the feet. She has power, but very low volume nonetheless. And I think the biggest problem is the cardio, especially on short notice. We saw her cardio really fall off a cliff, after really the 7 minute mark of the fight in her last fight against Kruschewsky, where she won the first round. She looked really good, almost got a sub. It's just after that first round, she really had nothing left. She landed a big shot in the second, but I thought she lost a lot of the second round, but she ended up getting the win. Very close fight. I personally scored it for Kruschewsky, so I think this is a fight where Barbosa could go out here and make it very competitive early, maybe land a big shot or two, maybe even take Maverick down in the early going, but as the fight goes on, I think you have to favor the cardio of Maverick. I think she takes over and wins this fight by decision or maybe getting a late finish along the way. I'll say Maverick by decision, though, and I think she gets it done here. Biggest favorite on the card, which is kind of wild at only -225. Next, we got Cody Gibson going against Brian Kelleher. We got Gibson, 36 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 19-10 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Brian Kelleher, 37 years old, 5'6", with a 64-inch reach, 24-15 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We got Gibson as another decent-sized favorite, like at -190 now. This is probably the sketchiest fight on the card, on a card filled with sketchy fights, because it's like, man, laying this price tag on Cody Gibson is just terrifying to me. I don't think he's that great, but at the same time, Brian Kelleher, I'm really worried about the guy. He's 37 years old at this point at bantamweight, and Gibson's not that much younger. He's like a year younger, but, Brian Kelleher, a big talking point I want to mention is the fact that he did have some type of big, back or, spine injury, and apparently, they were talking about Brian Kelleher might not fight again. Apparently he's a really bad back or spine injury. I'm not a doctor. That's just not what I am. But, that it sounded bad. whatever it was, it sounded pretty rough, especially at 36, 37 years old. But again, I want to emphasize that I'm not a doctor. But yeah, I guess I got to go Gibson by default. He's younger. I think he has more left in the tank, whereas Brian Kelleher just kind of looks like a shell of himself as of late. So Gibson by decision. But I mean, this fight is it's a rough one. It's certainly a rough one. Next, we have one of the best fights on the card. We got JeongYeong Lee going against Hyder Amil. We got JeongYeong Lee, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 11-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Hyder Amil, 34 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. This fight's going to be an absolute banger. So, JeongYeong Lee, thus far in his UFC career, he beat Yiza in his debut. That was the Road to UFC finale there. And then also he beat Blake Bilder the fight after that. Both those fights kind of sucked. Yiza humped his leg for 15 minutes, and Blake Bilder just didn't show up that night. He didn't want to be there. This fight is going to be completely different than the Yiza fight and the Blake Bilder fight, because Hyder Amil is going to be there. He is going to show up, and he is going to get right in JeongYeong Lee's face. Hyder Amil has just a crazy style about him. He's a guy that, his nickname is the Hurricane, for example. I think that is very fitting, because this guy fights like a hurricane. And I'm not a weather guy. What do they call him? Meteorologist. I'm not a meteorologist. I hope that's what they call it. Anyway, but a hurricane, it's a scary thing, man. Hurricanes are scary. They're deadly, and Hyder Amil brings that style in terms of he's going to just come at you with reckless abandon. He's going to eat one. He's to give one, and I think that's a very dangerous game to play with JeongYeong Lee here. So JeongYeong Lee has a ton of power. His grappling's really good, JeongYeong Lee. I think he has a really good submission game. So what I'm trying to get at is Hyder Amil is going to leave a lot of openings. I think with that pressure style, Hyder Amil is going to leave himself to be getting hit very, very hard in the face, and which JeongYeong Lee does hit very, very hard. So I think this fight is going to be just completely different than JeongYeong Lee's first 2 UFC fights. I think this fight's going to actually be fun. I think it's actually going to be exciting. I think Hyder Amil is going to bring that style, but I think that style that Hyder Amil is going to bring to the table is going to lead to his detriment. I like JeongYeong Lee to land a big shot and put Hyder Amil away and do it early on. So I'm going JeongYeong Lee to win this fight and win it in the very first round. Moving on. We got Bill Algeo going against Dooho Choi. We got Bill Algeo, 35 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 18-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Dooho Choi, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, 14-4-1 and 1-3-1 in his last 5 fights. Bill Algeo coming off of a loss to Kyle Nelson, a fight that was definitely stopped a little early, but he was hurt. He was hurt in that first round, was wobbling around the entire cage, so not the best look there. But I think this is a spot where Bill Algeo should be able to get back on track here. I just feel like Algeo has a lot of advantages. Like, you take a look at Dooho Choi. This is a guy that hasn't won in a very long time. The last time he won a fight was back in 2016. And I'm not the best at math, certainly not, but that's about 8 years ago. And it was against Thiago Tavares, right? Got a knockout win against Sam Sicilia, and then got a knockout win against Juan Manuel Puig. Those are his 3 wins, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and 10 years ago. He's been on a skid. He's been inactive, and if he's able to win this fight, it's gonna be his first win, like I said, in a very long time. And Algeo, he's been obviously much more active. I think Algeo's a guy that is going to have the cardio advantage. I think he's going to have the grappling advantage. If he wants to get it down to the mat, I think he could potentially do it. I think he's absolutely going to have the volume advantage here. But the advantage I do have to give Dooho Choi is going to be the power advantage, and the power gave Algeo problems in his last fight against Nelson. But with that said, Algeo held up just fine against Joanderson Brito. I think a lot of people forget that, Algeo beat Joanderson Brito and beat him pretty handily in that fight. It wasn't that close. So yeah, I like Algeo here. It's just I don't know if I can trust him. I mean, losing to Kyle Nelson, I guess it's not the worst loss in the world. Kyle Nelson's been on a decent roll, But give me Algeo to win here and win by decision. But Choi's going to land some big shots. We'll see if Algeo's chin can hold up this time around. Next, we have a fun fight here. We got Cody Durden going against Bruno Silva. We got Cody Durden, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach, 16-5-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Bruno Silva, 34 years old, 5'4", with a 66-inch reach, 13-5-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Another fight that is about a pick 'em. We got Cody Durden, like slightest of favorites, -120. Bruno Silva, +100. And this is one of your classic minute winner versus moment winner type fights. Cody Durden, probably the minute winner here. On the feet, Cody's probably a little higher volume, but where he's going to probably win his minutes is going to be with the wrestling. Cody Durden's a phenomenal wrestler. He's landing almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. We have seen Bruno Silva taken down and controlled before, but the moment winning is absolutely in favor of Bruno Silva. This guy hits like an absolute truck for the flyweight division. Bruno Silva's a black belt in BJJ, multiple submissions in the UFC. Does Bruno Silva, and I feel like he's obviously going to be the much more dangerous fighter in this matchup. Everywhere this fight goes, Bruno Silva is going to be dangerous. On the feet, Bruno Silva is going to be very dangerous. I listened to Bruno Silva's interview today. He's talking about how he seems very confident, which I think is interesting because these guys are actually teammates. But yeah, seems very confident, and he's talking about going out there and knocking out Cody Durden. I was kind of leaning more towards a sub. Because Cody Durden, he has never been knocked out, but he has been subbed like 4 or 5 times, Cody Durden. So I could see Bruno Silva winning this in just a bunch of different ways. I can see a TKO. I could see a club and sub. I can see, maybe a guillotine. I can see, a lot of ways for Bruno Silva to finish this fight, but obviously Cody Durden, if this fight does go 15 minutes, it probably means that he was able to get takedowns. He was able to get control time, and his chin and his submission defense was able to hold up. But I'm leaning towards the underdog here in Bruno Silva, and I'm going to take him to win this fight. I'll say second round submission for Bruno Silva here. Next, we have Kaynan Kruschewsky going against Kurt Holobaugh. We got Kaynan, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 15-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kurt Holobaugh, 37 years old, 5'11", with a 70-inch reach, 20-8, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. This is like one of the best fights on the card. I think this fight's going to be awesome. I think both these guys are going to bring it, and I think we got another live dog on our hands here in Kurt Holobaugh. Kurt Holobaugh is a veteran of the game. This guy has 37, or he is 37. He has 28 professional fights. He won the Ultimate Fighter, submitting Austin Hubbard in the second round. I thought that was a good win. And this is a fight where I think Holobaugh has a style here that can give Kaynan some problems. The first thing that I think can give Kaynan some problems here is the forward pressure of Holobaugh, the power of Holobaugh. Because I think Kaynan, he is hittable, and I think his chin is very questionable. I think Holobaugh's live to land a big shot here. I thought Kurt was when the fight was on the feet, Kurt against Trey Ogden, I thought he did a really good job when he was pressuring. I thought he looked good when he was pressuring. I just think he needed to pressure a little bit more. Obviously, his takedown defense looked horrible as well. But I'm not sure Kaynan's going to go out there and take Kurt Holobaugh down, for 15. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think these two are going to stand and bang. That's kind of what I'm leaning here. And I'm leaning the guy with the durability. That's Holobaugh. I'm leaning the guy with both guys have power, but Holobaugh has some power, man. So I'm liking Kurt Holobaugh here. I think he touches the chin of Kaynan. I think Kaynan's going to give him just a multitude of opportunities to get a knockout here. So Kaynan's too hittable for my liking. The chin's questionable. I think Holobaugh touches the chin here, and I think he does it in round 1. So give me Kurt Holobaugh by first round knockout. Next, we have Steve Garcia going against Seungwoo Choi. This fight is phenomenal. We got to give a round of applause to the matchmakers because they couldn't have put together like a more fun fight here between these two. Like this was perfect. Great job. Steve Garcia versus Seungwoo Choi. We got Garcia, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 18-8, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Seungwoo Choi, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 74.5-inch reach, 11-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Banger. Somebody's going to get served here. Served in very brutal fashion. One thing that jumped off the page to me in this fight was, I was looking through the guys' records, right? And Steve Garcia, for and against, has a combined like 10 knockdowns, which means he's getting a combined knocked down and he's knocking guys down a combined 10 times. Same thing for Sung Woo Choi. So that's like 20 total knockdowns for and against between the two combined. These guys are getting knocked down left and right. You will not see a Steve Garcia fight where he's not getting knocked down. Even in fights where he's winning, he's getting knocked down, Steve Garcia, outside of Chase Hooper, of course. But yeah, this guy gets knocked down, he gets back up, and then he knocks you out. It's actually quite cool. Sung Woo Choi, yeah, there's some sketchy things with Sung Woo Choi. That Michael Trizano loss, not good. That was the fight where they both had the double knockdown, and I'm not even sure if they counted that as a knockdown because there were like 2 other times where Choi got knocked down. I counted Choi getting knocked down 3 times in that Trizano fight. Michael Trizano, the guy that gets decisions, like Trizano's not knocking out anybody ever, so for that to happen, not good. Josh Kulabau dropped Sung Woo Choi twice. Not good, and even got dropped by Jarno Aarons. Not great. So, yeah, both of these guys, 47% strike and defense for Choi, 46% strike and defense for Garcia. Garcia's been dropped a million times. Choi's been dropped a million times. I have a funny feeling that one of these guys are going to get dropped. It just comes down to whose chin is going to hold up. These guys are going to stand there and swing until some man falls. Until one man falls. In terms of picking a winner, I'm going to go Steve Garcia, but I have like a strong suspicion that he's going to get dropped at least once. At least once. So, in my opinion, the best fight on the card. If you guys are a fan of violence, you are a fan of this fight, give me Steve Garcia to take Sung Woo Choi's head clean off in the first round. This should be an absolute banger. Steve Garcia round 1 knockout for me here. Sorry guys, I can't talk tonight. It's a late recording here. It's been a long week, so hopefully I can get through it. And yeah, so JeongYeong Park going against Brad Tavares. We got JeongYeong Park, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, 17-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Brad Tavares, 36 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach, and I forgot to put the record in the last 5. Fantastic. So yeah, for me, it's JeongYeong Park here. It's JeongYeong Park, probably by decision. I think Tavares is done. He's not even that old. He's like, 36 years old, but he's been in the game forever. I feel like I've broken down 50 million Brad Tavares fights. He's been in the UFC for a very long time at this point, and he's taken a ton of damage at this point. Brad Tavares is a durable guy, but at the end of the day, he's been knocked out 5 times. He went to war with Dricus du Plessis. I think that Dricus fight might have took a little something out of him because holy crap did he look bad in the Bruno Silva fight. Holy crap did he look bad in the Gregor Rodriguez fight. And holy crap did he look bad in the Chris Weidman fight, a fight that he won, but geez, that was an awful look, I thought. Even in a win against Chris Weidman, that was a terrible performance. And then even prior to that, the Amari Akhmedov fight sucked. So, yeah, I think Brad Tavares has just been kind of done for a while, man. I think he's, slowly on a decline, which is expected. He's been in the game for so long. He's taken all this damage. He's getting knocked out. Whereas JeongYeong Park, I still think he has a lot left in the tank. He's 33 years old. He was on a 4-fight winning streak, and he almost made it to 5. That Andre Benitez fight was very, very close. I thought it was a very winnable fight, very close fight. But yeah, give me JeongYeong Park here. The one thing I'll say is, this is going to be a striker versus striker matchup. Park has been grappling as of late, but I don't think he's taken down Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares, even at 36 years old, his takedown defense is elite. I think it's going to hold up in all fights, but especially this fight. So I think they are going to strike for 15 minutes. I think this fight is going the distance, so it's going to come down to the crooked, corrupt judges, the judges that I struggled to know if they're even watching the fight at times. I remember an event a couple years ago where a judge was actually caught, looking at their phone during a fight. I forget which fight it was. It was a horrible fight, but I remember a judge was not even watching the fight, and that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So I think Park wins, but again, it's going to come down to the crooked, corrupt judges, and we'll see what they think. But Park by decision. Moving on, we have, sorry for the jump scare on Virna. Virna, what are you looking at? Virna Jandiroba going against Amanda Lemos. Sorry, guys. 36 years old for Virna. 5'3". I'm a big Virna fan. 64-inch reach for Virna. 20-3 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Amanda Lemos, 37 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach, 14-3 and 1 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. I like both these fighters. We got a striker versus grappler matchup here. So what I'll say is on the feet, it's one-way traffic. On the feet, it is not even close. It is, you're heavily favoring Amanda Lemos. On the feet, Lemos is gonna smoke Jandiroba. Lemos is going to destroy Jandiroba on the feet. But, this is not, a fight that's gonna take place standing for the entire time. Like, Virna's gonna get takedowns. And yeah, Virna can get takedowns. Lemos, her takedown defense isn't great. She is a black belt Lemos, but not to the caliber of Virna Jandiroba, who I think is either the second or third best grappler in the division. So yeah, Virna will get takedowns. I guess it's gonna come down to, can Virna submit Lemos? And I don't know, Jessica Andrade got that standing arm triangle against Lemos. That wasn't the best look, but Lemos was able to survive for 25 minutes against Zhang Wei Li. Lemos was able to survive against Mackenzie Dern. Dern was on top of her for I think 6-7 minutes of that fight. So yeah, I'm not sure if, and even then, like, Virna's not really subbing chicks as of late. The last submission win Virna has, I think, was like 4 years ago, back in 2020? 2020 against Felice Herrig. So I just feel like there's a bigger discrepancy on the feet than there is on the ground. If Virna gets a takedown, it's not the end of the world. Is it ideal? No, it's not the end of the world. Whereas if Virna's not able to get takedowns, she's going to get served very badly. So I love this fight. It's a pick'em type fight. You can make a strong case for either fighter, but for me, I am kind of leaning the dog money here and Amanda Lemos, hoping and hoping that she can stuff takedowns. If she gets taken down, survive, get it to the next round. I think as this fight goes on, I favor Lemos, believe it or not. Lemos, if you would ask me that, a couple years ago, I'd say I'd maybe favor Virna, but Lemos' cardio's looked on point as of late. I think she's really dialed in and putting an emphasis on her cardio. And yeah, Lemos, her cardio's looked phenomenal as of late. She's went 5 rounds, whereas Virna, she hasn't went 5 rounds. Virna's looked awful in the He Boss fight, round 2, round 3. So yeah, I'm taking Lemos here. I'm taking Lemos to win this fight by third round knockout for Amanda Lemos. But this is a fight I certainly have my eye on, and it's a fight I've had my eye on for some time. Again, I'm a big fan of both these ladies, and should be a fun matchup. I hate to pick against one because I've been a big fan of Virna. She's been looking phenomenal as of late, but I just feel like Lemos has such an advantage on the feet that I got to pick her here by knockout. So give me Lemos by third round knockout. Sorry for the late video, guys. I hate doing the late releases, but I wanted to at least come on here and put forth some effort. Try to do as much research as I could. I didn't want to get it out on Monday, Tuesday, and just kind of talk out of my ass. So I'll be getting out my UFC 304 breakdown at nice and early to kind of make up for it. I'm aiming for Sunday or Monday. I've actually already taped like half the fights for UFC 304. Doing an early prediction video with Clint as well on the Die Hard MMA podcast. So I'll be getting out my UFC 304 prediction video nice and early for you guys to kind of make up for the late release. Again, hate doing late releases, but better late than never. That's what they say. Better late than never. So do me a favor, if you guys could, like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Going to be a light betting week for me. The game plans to kind of keep it light this week and attack UFC 304 heavily because a lot of spots sticking out for the big pay-per-views. So best of luck, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.